Hello everyone, welcome back to another World of Tanks ep video, and I'm your host, Captain Shu, and today I'm going to be doing a top 10 tanks to play in World of Tanks. Now, before we go on to see this wonderful list, I just want to state that this is my personal opinion, and my personal style I have developed while playing the game. So I guess what I mean by that is it's some of these have a little bit of bias, but not enough to skew the results. Well, mostly. But let's get started. You may see here that I'm starting with Tier 2, but in actuality, Tier 1, we're going to be starting from Tier 1 to Tier 10. So the best Tier 1 vehicle to start off is any of them. I've looked at all the Tier 1s and it's really hard to choose one over the other. It's whichever one you think, it's whatever you are interested in is basically the vehicle that is the best in terms of in your own mind. It's stat wise it might not be the best, but to you chose it because maybe design, or maybe it's a country you like. But I believe that at Tier 1 it doesn't matter which vehicle you pick. It's the journey that will decide if that Tier 1 was worth it or not. Which brings me to Tier 2. Tier 2 was very hard. There was a lot of good vehicles that were there, and I had to pick. There's 3 holders to this. The T2 medium, the Cruiser 1, and the Cruiser 3. Oh shoot, come back here. No. I've played all 3 and I enjoyed all 3 to their fullest extent, and I honestly couldn't. Between these 3, it was very hard to choose. It's between the cruisers, they're opposites, but their strengths are near the same, just few minor differences. And the M2 medium, it was just so fun to play when I first started. Just driving around with my little machine gun, just spraying all my enemies. With them out of the way, I'll excuse them, and we'll move on to Tier 3. Tier 3 was a little bit easier for me. Oh, frog in my throat. But I came up with 2 results. Once again, it's very hard to pick one out of the many we have in the game, because each vehicle has its own strengths and weaknesses. Just the vehicles I have chosen so far have more strengths than weaknesses, or that they're just the weaknesses don't hinder the amount of fun you can have with these vehicles. And those 2 vehicles are the Panzer 1C and the BT-7. Both vehicles are very nice, very fast mobile vehicles, and very friendly too to new players. If you're a new player looking at Tier 3, I recommend one of these 2. The Panzer 1C is most notably, it has a little machine gun that you just run around the battlefield and you just unload. You got a big enough clip where you can just spray the enemy and not have to worry about hitting. It's very nice. Where the BT-7, it's fast, it's mobile, and it has a very nice gun. The gun's fast firing. It's a little iffy at times, but you can go in and out of situations so easily. It's very relaxing. And with that, we move on to Tier 5. Or Tier 4. Oh, Scott. Oh, frog's coming back. Tier 4 was another one of those that it was very hard to choose between. And our two victors will be the Matilda and the Hetzer. The Matilda she's slow. The Matilda is very slow. She's a big girl, quite heavy, lots of armor, and she's got a very nice fast firing gun. You can feel comfortable and you can trust in this vehicle's armor, because you can just roll up. At its own tier, the Matilda is a deadly force of nature. It can roll up and it can just level a playing field. And get a platoon of these things, it's like non-stop hellfire. And then we've got the Hetzer. Like the old saying goes, Hetzer's got a Hetz. This thing, in the World of Tanks community, it's very popular because of its I believe it's a 105 gun. I would have to check again. Let's see here. Oh, it's 10.5 centimeter howitzer. I love the gun. Or is it this little bugger? Nope. It was this guy. But with the HE rounds with this thing, it can destroy vehicles of its own tier and tiers below it. Since it has no turret, it's very hard. It takes a specialized approach to it. For vehicles with no turrets, you gotta be very self-aware. And with the armor that this thing has, it doesn't have very thick armor. As it says right here, it's 60 millimeters, where most vehicles of Tier 4 have around 90 to 80 centimeters of penetration. But the trick is, the Hetzer, let's see if I can, no, I cannot. The Hetzer has slanted armor. Oh, come back here, you. I was not done yet. I was definitely not done. Grr. But it has slanted armor, which can double or triple the armor thickness of the vehicle. And at Tier 4, some vehicles don't have the penetration power to beat this thing, which comes to its biggest downfall is it has no turret. The turret, without a turret, you can't look around and you rely on your tracks. This vehicle can easily be tracked and taken down if a group wanted. But if you leave this Hetzer alone, you're gonna definitely be on the receiving end of this deadly howitzer. Number 5. I think this is the only tier where I came up with a single solution answer. Don't know why. Alright, there we go. And my single solution answer was the KV-1. The KV-1 is a very new player-friendly vehicle. It has a very nice 85mm gun, or is it centimeter? I forget the... millimeter. Yep, has a very nice 85 millimeter gun. It's fast firing. It's very reliable. Has a solid amount of hit points, good armor, and that's all you really need to ask for in a heavy tank. It doesn't need to be fast. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to see very far. It just needs to be, for a heavy tank, it just needs to be there and have a strong gun and strong armor with a nice chunk of hit points. And the KV-1 embodies that. Next up is Tier 6. And for Tier 6, I've got the Cromwell, the T-34-85, and the M6. And I guess I'll throw in a disclaimer if you haven't figured it out by now. There's no premium vehicles in this list. There's no special vehicles in this list. For the Cromwell and 85, it's simple. Both vehicles sport very nice guns, very good maneuverability. The only difference between the two, in my opinion, would, well, not only mobility, but really play style. The Cromwell is very much suited to quick on the move, fast firing, in and out kind of play style, where the T-34-85 it's able to get in and out, but it can brawl. It can stay in the fight a little bit longer. It can take a punishment a little bit more with its more reliable armor. And then we got the M6, which I was very much teeter-tottering with another vehicle, well, with another 3 vehicles, but the M6 has the best of both worlds. The M6 sports a very nice gun. The mobility is very nice, but I guess with this vehicle, for me, it was very long. It was uncomfortable, very long and kind of bulky for its tier. Because I know for that sentence, it's going to be hypocritical coming the next few vehicles. But for this vehicle, at tier 6, I don't know, it was, for new players, it's very nice. It has a very nice guns, very nice mobility, good armor. But I guess for higher tiers, it stands a little behind compared to some of the more commonly known heavies, such as the KV-2, which almost made it to this list. But the only reason that it didn't make it to this list, as much as I love the KV-2, I guess the reason the KV-2 never made it to this list is it's specialized in a way. Grant, all these vehicles are specialized. At tier 6, you start to specialize in these vehicles. But the KV-2, for some odd reason to me, seems a little bit more specialized. You gotta have a little bit more patience. And that's the only reason why the Cromwell and the T-34-85 are also on this list. That not only are they they don't really need much specialization, they're more new player friendly than the KV-2 is. Same with the M6. For me, I look for enjoyability and how friendly the vehicle is to the player. And as much as I love the KV-2, like I said before, the main reason is it's a little bit more specialized. As in, it's a little bit harder to play in certain times. Up to tier 7, I've got another batch of, whoa, come back. Where'd you go? Well, that's interesting. I can preview these vehicles? I can. Oh. Well, from here on out, I might use this. If I could move to the next vehicle, it'd be very nice. But for tier 7, at tier 7, you've realized, you should have realized which vehicles you want to go after, which tier 10s you want to go after, what you kind of... The funny thing about World of Tanks is tier 1 through 4, it's a learning curve. It's tier 1 through 4, you're learning how to play the game. You're introduced. Tier 5 is the... Tier 4 to 5 is that hard part. Is, to me, it's the breaking point for players. It's either you love the game enough where you can continue, or you can't do much more. Tier 1 through 4 was your bread and butter, and you can't really... You don't have the patience for anything else. Because tier 4 to tier 5, it's a lot more work to get to, and it only gets, in my opinion, worse as the higher tiers go, or the more work is required. So, and then tier 5, if you haven't found a buddy at tier 5, or from tier 1 to tier 4, tier 5 and tier 6 are where you're going to find a friend. You're going to find a buddy, and he's going to be your best friend, and you two will go on grand adventures in this game, just having fun. Or maybe you'll find a clan by that point, because most clans in this game like seeing players with a tier 6 for competitive use. But tier 7, this is where you've chosen your playstyle, and you've really got to handle... you really want to learn how to really master your playstyle. And for that, I chose these 7, or these 4 tier 7s. The Oni, in my opinion, is very new player friendly. It's got the right amount of hit points, the right gun, and has the correct amount of hit points for its tier. 1500 hit points. It's... Some might say it's a little under, but it's so... To me, it's perfect. I've had many good games in the Oni, and I'm really regretting selling it, and I'm thinking about buying it back because I had so much fun in the Oni. It's... Tier 7's also the weird spot where you can see the lower tiers, but you also get the high tiers as well. And that's where you get to master start to master your play style. Whether you're a heavy tank player, artillery player, light tank, medium tank, tank destroyer. It all depends here. And you'll see by this list where my play style stands. So next up we have the IS. The IS is, in my opinion, another great new player friendly vehicle. It's fast and mobile like a medium, but it punches really nicely like a heavy tank. And the armor is well balanced enough, and the hit points are just right, where For a heavy tank, you can brawl, you can do all the heavy tank stuff, but you also have the qualities of a slower medium who can enter the battle and make a difference. And I'm going to skip the T25AT and go to the T39 because I'm going to stick with the turreted for now. The T29 is also one of those great vehicles that it has the same qualities as the IS does. It has a nice gun, but the difference between the IS and the T29 is the gun depression and, well, actually overall just gun aiming time and loading time. It's a faster. The gun handling on the T29 is a little bit better, but I don't know. The IS seems a little bit more friendlier to me, but the T29 is also a very nice one. It holds its own at its own tier. It has a very nice gun. It just, I don't know. It just so much there's just so friendly. It's just a friendly vehicle, which leads me back to the T25AT. I'm just going to delete these while I'm. The T25AT is it's a very nice vehicle. It has the speed of a medium tank. It has a nice tank destroyer gun. And to be honest, it's for what it is, it's not that bad of a vehicle. I enjoyed it enough by my own experience that I kept the vehicle. It's still I could easily put it in my top 10. I played this vehicle, and I'm not saying you will enjoy it too. It depends on your play style. But the 25AT, the gun is nice, the mobility is nice. It doesn't have the armor, but you could call it a turretless medium, and you can get away with it too. You can get from one end to the map to the one side of the map to the other end in a reasonable amount of time. You could make a difference in a battle. I guess the only problem I would say is just don't get tracked. Don't get outmaneuvered. Stay with your buddies. At this point, if you don't have a buddy, you need to find one quick, because the higher the tier, the more reliant you're going to be on your buddy. Moving on to tier 8. At this point, you could find most other people would be inclined to show you medium tanks. That would be perfect. Fast good guns. But for me, I'm not saying that they're bad, and most mediums are pretty good. I guess where I'm also want to view it is the tanks that aren't viewed, like these turretless tank destroyers, the J Panther and the Ferdinand. These two are very similar. It depends on your play style. I know a couple buddies in my clan that they ask me the question all the time. Which one of these do you prefer? Personally, I would go for the Ferdinand, because that's what I originally had. I started off with the Ferdinand. Compared to the J Panther, it has more hit points, more armor, but it's slower. They have the same gun, except the Ferdinand has more of a chance to stay in the battle longer. And I got a couple buddies that say the J Panther's better because it's fast, it's mobile, it can get from point A to point B faster than the Ferdinand. And I agree with that. I have both of them. Actually, today I got 4 kills with my J Panther by ramming them to death. Because I had the speed and I had the mobility to do that compared to the Ferdinand. But but the difference I see is I found it very hard to stay in the game in the J Panther because the hit points it has, I think, about, where's the hit points? Yeah, it has less hit points. It has 350 less hit points than the Ferdinand does. To me, that's just very crucial. Those 350 hit points is equal to one tier 8 round. Most mediums will hit for 200 or 320. I can survive on that with the Ferdinand, but with the J Panther, I'd be out. And the next one on the list would be the IS-3. Hands down by the community, probably one of the top 3 best heavy tanks in the game. Not excluding premiums, of course. For grinding wise, the IS-3 is your buddy if you choose to go down the heavy tank line. It has a very nice gun, very, very good armor, and you can actually do a couple things in this vehicle that you can't with other certain heavies. It's called reverse side scraping, where you put the rear of the vehicle forward and you're shooting backwards basically. So the front of the vehicle's facing the opposite direction of the enemy. So you're basically hiding your rear end behind an object and leaving your turret and the front end of your vehicle exposed. It can side scrape like the IS-3 can side scrape, and it's very much well loved amongst the community. And the mobility of the vehicle is very nice. It can keep up reasonably well with most mediums. It's when you get to the light tanks that get interesting.